Yeah, Pallavi ji.
Yeah, thank you, Sunil ji. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji, thank you. And Radhe Radhe Madan ji and Sunil Bhai for a wonderful session. We're also talking about a related topic leading up to surrender only. It's interesting how it converges. So we're going to spend a good amount of time on this topic over the next few classes. Today we are going to talk about the concept that we have been talking about, grace, which is a very, very important secret sauce on the path of spirituality. If you are on any other path, this grace aspect is discounted. It's like we don't believe in grace. There's nothing like grace. Our grace is the secret sauce and the Brahmastra on the path of spirituality. And we'll continue our discussion on this topic today and look at it from more lens and also get comfortable with the related concepts around it as well. So let's get started. A very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening. Let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru like we do always. So I'm going to share my screen, share sound, and we'll be good to go. Able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, we'll get started then. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. Let's get started. So we've been talking about the concept of grace, and this word is introduced in this verse that got us going. So I'm going to repeat it. You're welcome to follow along. Prasade sarva dukkhana anirasyopajaayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. All right, let's pick up a few participants and get it going.
Samji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Samji. Always top the list.
Can't beat her now. Yeah.
Can't beat her.
Today
Yeah.
I need dopamine kick, Nitinji, as you promised.
Sure.
Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishtate.
Very nice, Samji. Like always, thank you.
Ashutosh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Prasade sarva dukkhana anirasyopajaayate prasanna chetasho yashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Good to hear from you, Ashutoshi. I think you were in a sabbatical, so welcome back.
Thank you.
Sandhya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Trees and the sparrows, but good to see you. All right, let's move on.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Prasadi sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Wonderful, very nice, Sandhya.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Thank you.
Very nice, Shri Ramya ji. And you may want to pull up the satsang picture in Hyderabad. Okay, I'd love to see that in this session. Maybe we'll pull it up later during the session. So thank you, very nice. Let's move on.
Aparna ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Aparna ji.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Very nice, Aparna ji. Thank you. So today we will, time permitting, we'll go through the question that you posed yesterday. If God is called Akaran Karun, causelessly merciful, why doesn't he bestow his grace upon us because we are in a pitiable state? Why does God need a reason for that? So think about this. We will get to this question towards the end. All right, let's move on.
Pragi ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Very nice, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Can you pick up the remaining hands? Last 5 maybe.
Radhe Radhe. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Shyam ji. Radhe Radhe. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can quickly cover the remaining
Yes.
hands. Let's do that.
Rahul ji, Radhe Radhe. Yeah, please go ahead, Rahul.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Very nice, Rahul. Radhe Radhe.
Priya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Riya ji.
Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate.
Very nice.
Radhe
Thank
Radhe.
you, Priya ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, we'll
Shyam
freeze
ji.
it for the last 4 and let's complete it quickly.
Radhe Radhe. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyo upajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Shyam ji. Radhe Radhe. Yes,
Lakshmi
last
ji,
2.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Lakshmi ji. And a lot of accolades are flowing in for the presentation that you gave yesterday. So thank you again for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last 2 hands.
Yeah. Kramsi ji, please go ahead.
Ramsi ji.
Please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Prasade sarva dukkhana hanir asya pajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Thank
Very
you.
nice. Is it Chandru ji?
Yeah, that's what I Chandru ji, right?
All right. Yeah. Very nice to hear you, Chandru ji. After a while, welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not the least, Sumesh ji. Please go
Ramesh
ahead.
ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyasu buddhi paryavatishthate. Radhe Radhe, thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice. Thank you, Sumesh ji. So let's get started. We are talking about the concept of grace, and in which this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying, by divine grace comes the peace in which all sorrows end, and the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind soon becomes firmly established in God. Two things. One is, in order for us to firmly establish our mind in God, we need a tranquil, peaceful mind. If our mind is turbulent, we cannot establish God. It cannot get established in God. It's like if I were to pick up an analogy, the mountain lake, which is calm and still, you can see the bottom of it. But if the water is turbulent, it will be muddled. And that is how our mind is. Unless it is tranquil, peaceful, you cannot establish it. So that is the condition. And then if we take a step back, it is saying the peace or the tranquility, it comes through the grace of God. He's not saying it's coming through your self-effort. You read 50 self-help books and your mind will become peaceful. Or you do this practice, it will become peaceful. No, it is through grace. And the word for grace is prasade. Prasad means something that is given to you out of mercy, compassion, grace. So this is the concept we are talking. We came to a certain point yesterday. We will do a quick recap and move on. So we spoke about grace. Now today we are going to talk about what is the price tag to attract God's grace. And is there something I can do a trade-off to attract God's grace? Like we do a trade-off for a car. Is there anything that we can offer to God and say, give me grace in return? We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's move on. Now, what are the different kind of relationships possible in this world? We spoke about this concept. We said that in justice-based, and mercy, kripa-based. These are the three. And we said injustice can be ruled out when it comes to God. Justice is what we are currently operating in. Perfect justice dispensing system is what we are subjected to in the law of karma, so to say. And then spirituality is about moving from this mercy-based system to, the justice-based system to mercy-based system. How do we change the dynamics of this relationship where it's not that, okay, my karma and my responsibility. Let's move towards mercy-based. How can we attract God's mercy or grace? Because eventually we have to tap into that. Is where what we were discussing yesterday. And then we came to a point, this is mercy. If grace is something, it's a commodity held by God. Can we snatch it from God? Can we steal it from God? Or the other part is, can we purchase it? Right? If I am Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, can I say, God, I have enough money. You put your price, here's a blank check and give me your grace. Or if your grace is too costly, give me 50% of it at least. Remaining 50% I'll work towards. That is what we are going to talk a little more today. And then there's another option. We can request for it. Just go and request for it and gain the eligibility around it. Right? So let's get into the purchase part of it. It's an important concept to understand because this is again something which is impeding our spiritual journey in a lot of ways. And it is because of ignorance. Ajnanam evasya moola karanam. The Brahma Sutra Vedvyas says, and this concept is also something which is ajnan, is stopping us from making spiritual progress. Why? Let's see that. Now, reading all the scriptures, let's say hypothetically, one is endowed with an intellect, great intellect, and you go through all the scriptures in one lifetime. You think that's good enough to draw God's grace? Big pandits, big Vedic scholars, they recite big mantras and we only get impressed. Wow, what a panditji. Or they did that particular puja and they were reciting mantras, they were mind-blowing. So let's say there is somebody who can go through the entire set of scriptures. First of all, it's humanly not possible in one lifetime. But let's say, for argument's sake, it is possible. Somebody actually goes to the extent of doing that. Is it good enough to go through all the scriptures to draw God's grace? If that is the case, that becomes the price of God's grace. Anything that you do to get something becomes the price. What is the price? In economics, price is something that determines the cost of that particular thing. Plus you add some profit, that becomes the selling price. You add VAT, GST and all that stuff. That is how government does the indirect taxation around it. But the price of something is what you are willing to pay, and the seller is willing to give that commodity for that thing. That is where we negotiate as well. That becomes the price. And if this is something that could entitle us for God's grace, that means this becomes the price. You pay the price, read all the scriptures, you get the grace, job is done. Scriptures will tell us that, read me, your job is done. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Okay, you go ahead and read all the scriptures. In fact, this is one of the vasanas on the path of spirituality. Just give me a sec. That one needs to guard against, which is called Shastra Vasana. Shastra Vasana is something where people go on and reading stuff, anything and everything that comes to them, and get a great pride. I have read this, I have memorized this shloka, I can recite this shloka, I can do this mantra. Doesn't matter. It is called Shastra Vasana and something that we need to refrain from. Little bit of knowledge is good enough for us to progress spiritually. We don't need to go through the entire set of scriptures. Not needed. What else could be the price of it if we could purchase it? Let's look at it. Second one is meditating for thousands of hours. So let's say you meditate for 1,000 of hours. And now you say, grace is mine. Can we say that? If that is the case, our scriptures will say, keep on adding hours, make it a part of your daily routine. And when you continue to do that, in one lifetime or in million lifetimes, you will get God's grace. Let's say if we have meditated even for a minute, or let's say even for a second in our life, we have had infinite lives already. So we have already meditated for infinite seconds. Will it give us the entitlement to draw God's grace? If the answer was yes, then that becomes the price of God's grace. You meditate and God's grace is all there for the taking. You put it in the bag and take it along with you. It doesn't work that way as well. What else then? Let's look at something else. 1,000 lifetimes of austerities and penances. Austerities that we do. Severe austerities and penances that you do. That is also a branch, right? In Sanatan Dharam, people say if you do a lot of penance, austerities, subsist on leaves, subsist on air, water, become Dudahari, Jalahari, Naga Baba, lie on needles, tie your hair to the tree, all that stuff, if you do, will it take you closer to God? If you continue to doing a lot of austerities and inflict a lot of pain on or penances on yourself, if you do that, I've just put a number here. How much number I've put? 1,000. You can put 10,000, 1 million, billion, doesn't matter. Point is, if yes, the answer was yes, then that becomes the price of God's grace. Scriptures will say you do so many penances, pashyataps, austerities, vrata, jap, tap, whatever, and then you attain God. That becomes the price of drawing God's grace. Answer is no for this as well. Now, what is the cost is what we are talking about, right? So let's look at some more things. Chanting million times or billion times, or let's say trillion times. If that was the case, you do your rounds, you keep calculating it. Even if we have done one round in one life or one chanting in one life, right? Whether Jai Siya Ram or Radhe Radhe or Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, we have already done it million, trillion times. Infinite times we have done it. But has it resulted in realizing God or drawing His grace? Answer is still no. Okay. Because if that was the case, you pay the price, chant it that many times, and God is all yours. He will be right in front of you. It will happen. Answer is not even that. That is also not the price of God's grace. Then what is the price? What do we do basically? Right? It seems like a hopeless battle here. Now, doing puja, everybody does puja part, right, in India. If you ask somebody, they say, why do you go so deeper and becoming a philosopher these days? We also do puja path 2 times a day. And that is good enough. We believe in God. But is it good enough if we do that puja path twice a day? That is the common argument, at least I come across from my friends and relatives. Right? Puja Pathi, we are Puja Pathi. But the point is, doesn't take us very far. You do the Sandhya Vandan and that, which is good, brings in discipline and keeps our ongoing connect with God on. Disciplines our mind, and that connect, that thread that we need to strengthen with regards to building a relationship with God is maintained. So from that sense, it is a great practice. But is this practice good enough for us to take us to the goal, which is the God realization or drawing His grace? Because God realization can happen only after we have drawn His grace. If that was the case, then that becomes the price of God's grace. You do puja 2 times a day or 3 times a day for so many lifetimes. And once you have accrued enough merit, that's when you realize God. Is that the case? No, that is also not the case. Then what do we do basically? Let's look at it. Actually, God's grace is divine, perfect, and infinite. And it is priceless. You cannot put a price tag to it. You cannot say, I have done so much of puja, I have done so much of meditation, jap, tap, austerities, and I deserve God's grace now. Doesn't work that way. So there was a guy who was meditating on God, and he continued his tapasya for I don't know how many years, thousands of years. Previously, people could live for thousands of years. Okay, this concept seems a little weird, but that is how it was. And finally, God gave him his darshan. And when God came in front of him, he turned his face on the other direction. It's like, God, I'm cutty with you. So God said, what happened? He said, God said, see, I have manifested in front of you. And then he turned his head back and said, of course you had to. Right? I did so much of penance and jap tap for so many years. You had to manifest. What's the big deal about it? So God was quiet for a bit. And then the boulder on which he was sitting started speaking. He said, God, he's trying to settle accounts with you. First, you make me sit on his head for a million years so that we too can settle the account, and then he can settle his account with you. So the point is, you can't settle accounts with God. When God will manifest, when he will choose to give you darshan, or when he will give his grace, his call, because he only knows when is the appropriate time. So in path of devotion, we simply have to do our bit and be optimistic around it and wait for it. We cannot say we have done enough. Now I'm becoming restless. I'm not getting God's grace. His grace is coming. It will come. So the point here that I'm trying to make here is, that Swamiji explains so beautifully, is that God's grace is divine, perfect, and infinite. And it is priceless. You cannot put a price tag to it. If one could put a price tag, then you simply do that act and grace is all yours. Doesn't work that way. All right. Point made, hopefully. Now I've made the point, but then you will say, why do we need grace? You're talking about grace, this and that. I don't need grace. You do need. I'll tell you why. We need God's grace because of some of the stuff that we are subjected to, which is not very encouraging. What is that stuff? Let's look at that. Too much of it. We need it to get out of this cycle of Jan, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, death, birth, death, old age, and death, I'm saying. Disease. Both should have been disease. It's a typo. These 4 things everybody is subjected to. Is there anybody in the material world who has conquered this? Or saying it's perfectly okay? See, we get to celebrate our happy birthday, but that doesn't mean, we will look forward to taking birth and get subject to the cycle of disease and death time and again. So that is the first problem. The second one is Panchaklesh, Rag, Dvesh, Asmita, Vidya, Abhivinesh. Fear of death, Rag, Dvesh, torment, the troubles that our mind makes for us, and the anxieties that it builds, and the ignorance that we have, all that stuff we have to deal with. Tridosh, Kaf, Vat, Pit, we know that results in diseases finally. It's just a matter of time before some disease will catch us. We can increase our longevity by living responsibly, eating responsibly, thinking responsibly. But beyond a point, it's a machine that has to give in. And that imbalance stems from kapha, vata, and pitta. So tridosh also we have to deal with. Tritap, adi bhautik, adi daivik, and adhyatmik. Nobody is immune from that. Somebody in this world, whoever is living, adi bhautik means from other living beings, relations, friends, family members, other people, they can trouble you. And then the diseases can trouble you. More recently, like COVID came along. And then the natural disasters we have to deal with, tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes. These are called tritaps that we have to deal with in material world. And nobody's comfortable, right? We take all those shots and try to build immunity, and then we try to do mind management so that we can deal with anxiety and stress that are coming from other people. The subjects are not favorable. All these things are part and parcel of this material world. Then Panchakosh, Anname, Praname, Manome, Jnanme, and all these koshas also are there as part of our gross body that will get burnt when you grow past it. And then the Trikarm part of it, Sanchit, Prarabdha, and Kriyaman. We can't escape that. This is something we have to deal with. Prarabdha is something, a drop of in the ocean of our entire stockpile of karmas, which is called Sanchit, and a drop that is picked up is called Prarabdha. And what we end up doing in this life is called Kriyaman, which becomes our future Prarabdha. We have to deal with it. There's no way we can escape from it. And we have to continue living in this material world, returning in this material world for as long as that Sanchit karma is not completely exhausted, which is statistically impossible to do without taking assistance from God's grace. Yes, Lakshmi, you had a question? You are
Please
on
go ahead, Lakshmi ji. Yeah, please go ahead.
And this Panchaklesha, Rag, Dvesh, fine. What is Asmita, Avidya, and Abhinivesh?
I think Nivesh is the fear of death. Asmita is forgetfulness. Avidya is ignorance. Okay. These things we see, the knowledge slips out of our head. We did the anger management, but when the situation will come, it will slip out. Yeah. We know not to take tension, not to worry, be good, be kind, but when the situation presents, we forget. So forgetfulness is a problem in this material world. We have to deal with. Arjun, he got this message within 3 hours, and he not only understood but implemented it as well. For us, even a lifetime of study may not be enough unless God has started gracing us. That is the concept to be understood. If somebody says, I'm happy in this material world, then that person would be probably the only one on this world. Because our scriptures say it's impossible to extract true happiness out of this world, because you have to deal with all these problems and nobody is immune from it. That is the biggest thing. And that is where we need God's grace to cross over this cycle. This cycle of all these things, afflictions, material afflictions, cannot be crossed over by our self-effort alone without getting assistance from God's grace. So God's grace is the secret sauce around it. Yes, Aparna ji, you had a question as well?
Please go ahead, Aparna ji. Radhe Radhe.
Now I'm going to come to that
I
question.
didn't have a question. I was just wondering, is Asmita pride or...
I can get that. I think Asmita is probably forgetfulness, but I could be wrong. So I'll check it and get it for you. Okay. The point is, these are imperfections that we have to deal with as part of being humans or as part of being engaged in this gross body of ours. Okay. So these defects we have to deal with, and these defects trouble us. These are not the defects which are enjoyable. And when Buddha saw some of these defects, not all of them, he simply saw the first one that I spoke about, Jan, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Just by looking at it, he developed so much of detachment from this world. He said, if I'm going to be subjected to this kind of a misery, what is the root cause of it and how can I get out of it? So he contemplated so deeply on this concept that he became enlightened. Okay. We see it happening all around us, but it doesn't sink in. In fact, this is one of the things which is called the biggest wonder of this world. Kim Ascharyam. Yaksha had asked this question to Yudhishthir, that what is the biggest surprise in this world? And he said, we see people dying left, right, and center around us, and this concept doesn't sink in. We'll also have to part one day. We think it will happen, we have time, kind of a deal. So that reality doesn't sink in. Not that you become depressed every day, but we try to stay away from that fact that, any moment could be our end. Yes, Samji, you had a question as well?
Please go ahead, Samji.
What is
Rather in that slide, with due respect, the Panch Klesha, with my 2 cents on that one, I think from the bottom it starts the avidya, ignorance, and then from there arises the samita, which is a kind of ego, pride, or whatever you call it. From there it develops into 2 of these, rag or dvesh, and then the last one is avinvesha, mritu, to keep living all life. So that is a ego kind of thing.
Yeah, I've not made the tree structure of it. I've just laid it out in no particular order.
Oh, okay.
But if one were to order it, you are right.
No, that's not the point. I was trying to explain the asmita. That's in that context it happened to be. Not that. Sure. Yeah. Asmita is a kind of ego or pride or whatever you call it.
Yeah, the sense of the false identity with this body.
Yeah, right.
So it is called forgetfulness because we have forgotten our true identity. And that is why we are actually relating ourselves with this ego and this body aspect of it. So that forgetfulness leads to, but the root cause of all of this starts with avidya, ignorance. And rest follows, because the first mistake that we do in solving this equation of life is, the very first step we said 2 + 2 is equal to 5. And now we have started solving the equation. So the answer will always be wrong. And what is that fundamental mistake? That we are this body. And where is it coming from? Avidya, ignorance. So very true. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Samji. All right. Now, what is grace? This concept, we are going to beat this concept to death. Right? Let's understand in grand scheme of things, where does it need? So what we are doing right now is called sadhan bhakti. It's a preparatory stuff. We are running a simulation. We are trying to build a connect with God, and we are trying to take our mind away from the world, put it to God. That is the preparatory phase, or running a simulation. This practice, if we have perfected this in a lifetime, or let's say next month or 2, or next year or so, basically in infinite, that itself is a huge milestone. Why? Because this preparatory bhakti will actually lead us to kripa. Now, kripa can smile, which is called grace of God. And this sadhan bhakti, when it starts getting mixed with siddha bhakti is now God is giving you. See, it's like you're sitting and trying to think about Lord Krishna, trying to meditate upon him. And you're thinking now, hazy picture has started coming in, and you said, you know what, I'm about to see him. And then God's grace starts intervening. Then he'll start enlivening your meditation and say, you know what, I saw him, had a bit of a thing. So the real magic starts to happen when you have perfected your sadhan bhakti and the grace has started flowing in. He starts mixing his yoga maya power with you, and that's where the magic will start to unfold, which will take you to bhava bhakti basically. So the process, the way it works is, in sadhan bhakti, your default mind is in world. You have to put in effort to take it to God. When his grace starts coming in and you start getting into bhava bhakti, reverse starts happening. Your mind is absorbed in God and you have to step down to operate effectively in the world. How beautiful that situation would be, just imagine. And when this happens, this process continues. In due course of time, you do the God realization. But the key thing, ingredient is grace. And grace is going to come only when you do your sadhan bhakti. Now there's a condition for grace that we are going to talk about. Grace will start flowing in. Grace starts flowing in even when you're doing your preparatory bhakti as well, God starts giving in his grace as well. But then there is a big condition around that as well, because your proportion starts increasing, which makes you more and more eligible for the grace. And that is the concept we are going to talk about. Any questions so far? By the way, God realization, let's understand what is God realization a little bit, because often this concept is misunderstood by people. So once you become God realized, are you still subjected to any of these? Panchaklesh, Tridosh, Tritap and all that stuff? The answer is no. God realization means done deal. You have attained the potential of your life. You have hit the lottery and you are no longer obliged to come back into this material world. You may choose to, but the God realization means you have become God-like. There is no difference between you and God at that point. That is what God, it's a very high concept. It doesn't mean today I'm God realized, tomorrow I'm not, and day after I may become again. No, once God realized, always God realized. You don't come back. So that is a very high concept. And God realization and self-realization are different. Atma Gyan is self-realization. God realization is Brahma Gyan. God realization, Atma Gyan can happen through our self-effort alone, where we keep on thinking, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, and you start situated in I, which is soul. Right? Ramana Maharshi. God realization is realizing God in entirety. It is a much deeper concept. It goes beyond Atma realization. I'll give you an example just to drive home the point. If you know a drop of an ocean, if you taste a drop of an ocean, do you need to taste an ocean to know the taste of an ocean? No. So knowing a drop of an ocean is like self-realization, because we are divine, God is also divine. However, just knowing the drop of an ocean does not tell us the expanse and the depth of an ocean. Also, you cannot row a boat in that drop. So God realization is much bigger than self-realization and requires God's grace. So next time this question comes to you, is self-realization, God realization same? Answer is no. Self-realization is a initial stage. God realization is a much higher stage. And in order for you to realize God, you need God's grace. Now, if somebody is Jnani, I think this question came up in one of our previous sessions, who meditate only on light. In light cannot grace, and without grace, how will you attain God? Isn't it a valid question? Yes, that question is valid. And I asked this to Swamiji, and he told me that even a Brahma Jnani who meditates on light finally has to surrender to the Saguna Sakar Swarup to actually complete God realization. They don't have a choice. That is how it goes. Because without grace, you cannot realize God. And you have to become Sharanagat to God. That leads us to, that's a segue to our next question. How do you, so this is a must-have. Grace is a must-have on the path of God realization. Let's understand this concept. And what is the condition to God's grace? The condition is surrender. And that is where we are going to spend a good amount of time. What is this surrender? What does this surrender or Sharanagati means? And this is not an act, it is a way of life. And you increase the proportion of your surrender when you start getting spiritually evolved. That is the whole process. Now I'll take a quick break. I'll pose a question. But before that, any questions that you wanted to discuss, we can take those and then get into one question that I want to pose today.
Radhe Radhe, Ratna ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe,
Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji. Is enlightenment also different, or is it same as self-realization?
See, enlightenment, if you, in true sense, it is God realization only. See, what is truth? Truth is something, knowing something in entirety. So if you have realized yourself, it's not complete enlightenment, even at that point, because there is still something more to be known. So true enlightenment is God realization only. Although this word is used even in case of self-realization, but true enlightenment is God realization only. Truth is God realization only. For as long as you have not reached your true potential, it is still a partial truth. It's still not absolute truth. And that truth or complete enlightenment is God realization. Nothing short of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Shyamji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe. Will it be correct to say that self-relation is like I am the drop, and God relation is I am in the ocean?
No. God realization is becoming godlike.
And is it always true that it is not? Is it true that we always have God's grace? It's just we realize as per our convenience, as per our comfort. Is that so?
See, no, we spoke about this concept. God's grace is always there, even for Ravan, Kans, Hiranyakashyap, right? Air, water, fruit, vegetable is available. That is also God's grace.
Yeah.
But then there is something special grace also that we are talking about, the Kripa aspect of it, where he starts mixing, empowering, working through his Yogamaya part of it. That is subject to a special condition only. And that special condition is surrender, is what we are going to talk about. So that grace comes in only when you have met that criteria. Otherwise, it will not come. Okay, so we are talking about special grace. Also has multiple levels, right? If you are okay with the change, little bit of a change that everybody gets, fine. But if you need real hard, currency of grace, then you need to fulfill that special.
No, I think I can correlate, because the day you surrender with all your heart and soul, the grace flows differently. I can relate now. Yeah.
Yes,
thank you so much.
That's true. See, it's like it's when I say sadhan preparatory phase is preparing your vessel. Today, our vessel, let's say our vessel, there are multiple problems with our vessel. First of all, this is our vessel, right? Yeah. So grace, let's say it's pouring in from God. So the vessel is like this. Okay. The first problem is like this. Now, let's say you do that. Then there are a lot of holes in this vessel. All the rain will all flow out. Third thing, you block the holes. Then you put milk in it. The vessel is dirty. It will curdle. So we need to do all that stuff. We need to change the direction. We need to plug the holes. We need to clean it. When all that is done, the milk will come as, and that grace you
I can correlate now, because initially I was the same Ulta tumbler, and now I have just surrendered. So things are different now. Thank you so much.
Very nice. Very nice. And congratulations for becoming a Seedha tumbler. So thank you. All right. Yes, Samji, I wanted to ask something, and then I'm going to pose a question. Very important question that we need to really think about, that I posed right at the beginning. We're going to have a discussion on that. Yes, Samji, go ahead. Ask me the most difficult question of the day now.
Okay. You said that for grace, we should either request it or gain eligibility. But if we gain eligibility, doesn't that come under justice based? Because we are gaining eligibility and we are being gifted. It's like justice based.
So there's an eligibility. It's like it's one of the spiritual laws, right? Spiritual laws has to intervene. We spoke about certain, like in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, that law is there, that ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathaiva bhajamyam. It's a spiritual law. So when you shed a tear for God, so God has to reciprocate exactly at the same time, to the same extent, at the same moment, to the same person, right? So similarly, this is one of the laws. The day you are 100% Sharnagat, there's not even a single moment's delay in the entire grace flowing in. That is how it works. Like Ambar Avatar happened. Did God delay? He did delay, right? By the way, in Draupadi's example, Draupadi said, you did delay. But we know the reason why God delay. We'll revisit that concept. But there's absolutely no difference otherwise. God's grace intervenes immediately.
Yes, but you did not see this topic is started with grace, but you did not tell for what we have to ask for his grace.
Okay, I gave you a reason. Why do we need grace? Didn't you see the slide? This is why we need grace. We need to get over all these. If you are comfortable with all of it, then we are fine. We can continue with the way we are.
Yeah. Okay. No, I got it.
So we didn't speak about it. See, I'm able to think through the questions that you're going to ask. So that is why I put all these slides.
Okay, that means we cannot go for we cannot ask grace for material desires.
Sorry to disappoint you. You cannot, because God, it's like mother, right? Think of it, mother. Will she give her own kid something which is detrimental to his or her health. So God knows what is poison for us and what is nectar for us. What is nectar in long run and what is poison in short term. So he has our best interests in mind. And that is when we get into the principles of surrender, it will make more sense. Okay? Asking for, see, God doesn't need to be dialed. Okay, God, I need this. He is seated within. He knows what is needed for us. We think we go to temple, we will pray and we will make a recommendation and something different would happen. He knows what is good for us already. He'll give it to us as per the justice dispensing system, because we are playing that game right now. Justice-based system. We have to move towards mercy-based or grace-based system. And that is something we need to have a prasad buddhi. It's like all the cards are held by God. Okay, no option with us at all. Other than giving or increasing our surrender, we will get into that concept again. Now, what can we offer God? Is there a trade-off? I think I posed that question. Let's take Sumedha ji and a couple of hands, and then we'll get into that question. Who's next?
Yeah, Sandhya ji is also there. Can
Sure.
I?
Sandhya, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Actually, there are two questions from Urvi. But before that, can I just quickly say one analogy that I got reminded of after you talked about mother? So,
Yes,
Swamiji had said this, that when a kid gets engaged in playing with toys and forget that the kid is hungry, then in order to feed the kid, mother asks someone to actually snatch the toy away from the kid.
True.
And so that the kid actually realizes that the kid is hungry and mother can provide the food.
Very true. Very good. Very nice analogy and great example. That's what God does. Okay. That doesn't mean we freak out or get scared about it, but we should look at, the things and everything around us as more of as a trustee, not get too hung up in this ghar and game, toys that we create around it. There's another story in Mahabharata where Lord Krishna and Arjun goes to a devotee's house. She would do Krishna puja, think about God all the time, and then in between, she would take care of her cow, milk her, feed her grass, bathe her, and all that stuff. And then when they come out of her house, Arjun asks, would you grace her? Or did you grace her? Because she spends the entire day thinking about you. In between, she takes care of her cow and all that stuff. So Krishna said, yeah, the cow I'm going to snatch away from her. And he said, what kind of a grace it is? He said, because that is the only impediment she has in her life right now, which is distracting her. Otherwise, exclusivity or ananyata is something, she's just a little away from that. So that distraction also, I'm going to remove that impediment from her life. That is how God's grace works. And we think the God's grace is sukh sampatti, ghar aave kasht mite tanka. It doesn't work that way. Okay, that is our artis, but God's grace works in different ways to take us closer to the goal. And he's happy when we take a step closer to him. Yes, Sumedha ji, you had a question as well?
Urvi's questions, should I just read
Sure,
them?
sure. Yeah, we have time. Let's take.
First question that she's asked is, does everyone become self-realized before God realization, or can it happen directly?
It can happen directly. It's not a sequential or a linear process. Self-realization is a byproduct of God realization. Like mukti is a byproduct of Premanand. When you get God realized, mukti and all these things are a byproduct of it. You don't even have to seek it. So mukti is already it said that Bhakti Devi's maid servants, bhukti mukti, are maid servants of Bhakti. So it's a byproduct. You don't have to first do self-realization and then go to God. You can directly become God realized. That's what Maharaj Ji tells us.
Yeah, wonderful. And the next part is, does ye yatha mam prapadyante happen even during sadhan bhakti?
Yeah. Actually, if you are able to shed that genuine tear for God or feel that emotion for God, God has to reciprocate. There's no choice. Right? His spiritual laws are, he obeys those laws. It can happen at any stage. Right? As if there would be times when you'll feel strongly, those moments would come. The only difference is in sadhan bhakti, it would be occasional. In bhav bhakti, it will be more frequent. So But yeah, when we feel that genuine emotion for God, he has to reciprocate. There's no other choice. There's a story, right? There's a guy who was doing chawar to Lord Krishna while he was sitting on his throne. And in between, he sneezed. When he sneezed, a tear came out of his eye. Because he thought, I was serving Lord, and how selfish of me that his seva was obstructed, and because of which he was tearful, and Lord Krishna was crying as well at that same moment. So the point here is that those are advanced stages, of course, but God has to reciprocate at the same moment. He has to do that. That is his law, and that is the beauty, right? He gives you a personalized touch, not something which is an abstract concept when we start building a personal relationship with Lord. Yes, Sumedha ji.
Amazing.
I think hopefully, Urvi, your questions got answered.
Sumedha ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Sumedha ji.
Radhe Radhe. So, God realization comes with God's grace, right? So, and the surrender piece is in our control.
Yes.
Shouldn't this equation be something, that sadhana bhakti and surrender is in our controllable circle? Once we have that surrender and sadhana bhakti together, then the God's grace flows in, which means God realization. Am I getting this? Am I on the right track?
Yeah, the equation standpoint, if you were to ask me, I don't know how that equation will pan out, but it's like you are putting in your sincere efforts in sadhana bhakti and trying to increase your surrender or align to those principles. And whatever is the gaps, God will start filling in those for you because he gives you credit for your efforts and your sincerity. Right? Maybe there might still be some gaps in our perfecting our surrender, then God's magic will start unfolding because he knows we are trying our best and he starts filling in those gaps when his grace starts intervening. So maybe possibly even to perfect our surrender, we need his grace. I mean, that's my understanding. It could be limited. I can ask that to Swamiji. But that is how I feel. Because the only thing that is in our hand is our efforts and our sincerity. The rest, God has to fill in those gaps. I hope that answered part of your question, Sumita ji.
Ji, thank you.
Okay, do we have any announcements before we get into any further? I think Sandhya, you wanted to show some video how we need to be preparing for Gita Jayanti, just to give a teaser to everybody. So let's give a teaser.
Yeah, that would be great, Sandhya ji.
Yeah, you can do that, and then I wanted to share a picture of our satsang team as well in Hyderabad. So
you want to share that first, or
let me see if I can.
I can share the video. So first, maybe I'll describe about Gita Jayanti a little bit. So the idea is that we would want all of you to send in your videos, like short videos, vertical recorded, where you are wishing Gita Jayanti in different languages. So just one example of doing that I'll show, but don't take that as a reference. You can make much better ones. This is
just to tell you, now this is one language. You can take a look at it. Somebody will do it in Rajasthani, somebody will do it in Haryanvi, somebody will do it in your languages. It will come out. So we can do it in different languages, all of us. It will come out really nicely. So Sandhya is going to give you a demo, and then every day we'll play 1-1-1 so that you know. I think it will come out nicely. Let's do that.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. You can see it. I need to also share the sound.
Yes.
Can you share the audio as well, Sandhya?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Great.
Okay.
आप सारिਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਗਵਦ ਗੀਤਾ ਜਯੰਤੀ ਕੀ ਲੱਖ ਲੱਖ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਜੀ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ.
So that was, for those of you who don't know, that was in Punjabi.
Yes.
Okay, so let's build on that. It will be a nice way to create a buzz around Gita Jayanti. We have a lot of events planned here. Swamiji's keynote speech is going to be here as well. Then we have some guest speakers coming up. We have some online and in-person events. Just stay tuned for that. But let's create a buzz. It will be, we can create it on social media and all, and create a nice outro around it as well. So now that you've gotten some idea, please do that. And then I'll share some more instructions around some of the learnings around Bhagavad Gita, we'll create something for that as well. So just a little bit of your time and creativity, and that will go a long way. Anything else?
Yeah, one important home rule is please record it vertically. Like otherwise combining videos become a problem. So you can also record it horizontally, but we don't want it for this one. We want that you record it vertically and just like clear camera. What Rahulji wants to add something? Wait. Yes, Rahulji.
Yeah, good sound quality so that it is audible.
Yeah. Sound should be clear and vertical recording, short and sweet. That's it. So that we can compile it for everyone.
Great. Let's do that. If you have any questions, put it, and please do fill out the feedback tracker as well. I'd like to see how, what you want to see more of or less of or different. Please do fill out, take out a moment to do that. That I try to read that and see what different we can do. So this is the picture which is shared by Shirame. You want to talk about it? It is a satsang that happened in Hyderabad, and quite a few folks from our Vedic wisdom team in this particular satsang. So Shirame, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Srinamyaji, please raise your hand so that I can find.
Who all you met? I can see Devajyoti, Shramya, quite a lot of familiar faces from JK Yoga I can see in this satsang.
Ramyaji, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm audible, right? Okay. So thanks to Ashutosh for sending the picture. I don't know anyone there. I didn't know anyone there. Vidyaji, I spoke to Vidyaji and I spoke to a few people there, but I didn't know that they were part of our class, or I didn't know anyone. I went with my aunt and with my grandmother. The one behind me is my aunt, and I thought I'll get them connected. They never heard about JK Yoga, and it was a very blissful Kirtan session, and it was really good. We heard Swamiji's message, and there's a meditation session, and it just has to be experienced. I attended one in Bangalore, but in Bangalore, it's not a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. It is sometimes occasion based on some occasion. And I got to know that in Hyderabad, it's every weekend. I'd been there over the weekend, so I attended that. And I highly recommend everyone to attend the nearest satsang. That's a totally different experience.
Wonderful. So strongly encourage all of you, if you have a local chapter of a satsang, JK Yoga satsang going on, do check it out. Great way to continue that. But your spiritual progress, and regardless, you can join online as well. The satsang that happens here every Sunday. Do avail that opportunity. Beautiful satsang. You can just put in your earplugs and immerse yourself in devotional nectar. Okay. Any other announcements before we get into some of the discussions? I think we might.
I'll just take a quick moment, Nitinji. I have just now posted the link for the feedback tracker in the chat window. Please put your comments and questions in the feedback tracker. Apart from that, I have posted link for upcoming tours, Swamiji's upcoming tours in India. It's very exciting, and take advantage of it. I'm also so excited that to share all this information with my brothers, sisters, all the relatives, because they are also keen to in person attend Swamiji's session.
Wonderful. Yes, do avail that opportunity. His tour to India, and if you can go to his retreats, nothing like it. I always say that, these sessions, if you get introduced to Maharajji's philosophy, beautifully made accessible to us by Swamiji, the next logical step it is to go to one of his retreats. And for some reason you cannot go, at least start attending SMX sessions. And if you find that challenging, don't even think twice before enrolling for daily sadhana. These are a lot of avenues that are available to you to stay inspired and continue on this path. Like daily sadhana is there, SMX is there, and if you can meet him in person, nothing like it. And retreat is the best place to do that. All right, let's take.
Nitinji, there's one more quick question. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
That by what is the deadline to send the videos?
Deadline is now. So send it by next week. That should be fine. But the sooner the better, because it will give time for compiling it. Because the later you send it, the more difficult, lesser time we'll have, video team will have, right? So It will not take much time of yours. If you're serious to plans, and try to send it by this weekend. We'll get ample time, latest by early next week, I would say.
Yeah, and I've shared the link of the Google Drive where you all can upload your videos.
Please do that in different languages. How exciting it is. Okay, so don't make it too long. It'll come out really nicely. Urvi is smiling. She's already thought about in Rajasthani. I don't know which language I'll do, but let's keep it a surprise for now.
Yes. And just for convenience sake, I guess we can also put this link on the community portal so that people will have an access and they can.
Yes, but please don't do it in Chinese or Spanish and one of the regional languages, or Hindi, basically. I would recommend. All right.
Thank you.
English is fine. Yeah, that too. Okay.
I think
yes,
we are all set with the announcements. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Nice. So this question, I don't know, we'll be able to do justice to this today. Maybe I'll pick it up tomorrow. I posed that question that, God is a Karun Karun. Then why doesn't he take care of us? Because we are in a pitiable state, not in a good space. Why doesn't he do that? We'll take that question and then get into some deeper theory around the principle of surrender. It will take more than one session for sure, the way we go. But by the end of these sessions, we'll be very clear about, at least relatively more clear about the concept of surrender, what surrender means, and what we can practice on our day-to-day basis to increase our surrender and our proximity or closeness to God. Okay. Yes, are we good then? Move to devotional. Okay, one more question. Yes, Samji, you have all the questions in this world. Go ahead, please.
Please go ahead.
Nitinji Maharajji says that if you engage in selfless seva, you will get more than what you wanted.
It is selfless when you're thinking about, I'm going to do selfless seva so that I can get more than what I have, right? So that itself becomes selfish, right? See, the principle of universe is bin mange moti mile, mange mile na bheek. Yahi hai life ki sabse badi seekh. So that is how it works. It's like a shadow principle. The more you chase the shadow, the more it will run away from you. You turn it around, it will start chasing you. Yeah. Okay. So it will happen, but then God knows why you're doing something, right? If it is done with the intent, right, it will not work out that way. Yes, Urvi?
Yeah.
Are you going to sing? Okay, Sandhya and Urvi, do we have two singers today? Let's do it then. Let's move to our devotional segment. So by the way, the session technically ends at 10, but you are welcome to stay back if you want to immerse yourself in some devotional rus. We do some chantings, beautiful bhajans and all. And we have 3 people who have registered for it today. I can see a third hand. So let's go ahead and do that. Spend next 10-15 minutes in our devotional chantings. Let's start with Urvi.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Urviji. Please.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Okay. I'll sing Albelo Hamaro Yaar today.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Albelo Hamaro Yaar प्रेम के बंधन में अलबेलो हमारो यार प्रेम के बंधन में नहीं जात समाधिन जोगिन जय नाचत थई थई ब्रजनारिन की यार प्रेम के बंधन में अलबेलो हमारो यार प्रेम के बंधन में. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful, Urvi. Loved it. Very, very nice. See, beauty of these bhajans is that the Tattva Gyan is loaded in it. See, one of my favorite line is Nahi jaat samadhin jogin te nachat ta thei. That means the one who does not care to enter the trance or the samadhi of big yogis. So big yogis are meditating for thousands of years. And Krishna does not care to enter their samadhi. The same Krishna who doesn't care to enter their samadhi is dancing to the tune of gopis because they are approaching him with selfless love. again goes back to the principle that we're talking about. Beautiful Tattva Gyan and devotional nectar packed in these bhajans. Thank you, Urvi. Always a pleasure to hear it from you in the bhavpurn way that you do. Thank you. All right, next is, you want to go, Sandhya, or Kripa is ready to do Kripa on us today. Okay, Kripa, go ahead.
Okay, Kripa. Okay, Kripa ji, Radhe Radhe. Yeah, please
Radhe
go ahead.
Radhe. I want to sing Swamiji's bhajan. It's called Ore More Man.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Ore More Man, Shri Radhika Raman, Nish Din Gun Gan Gaye Ja. Ore More Man, Shri Radhika Raman, निश दिन गुन गन गाए जा, छिन छिन नेहा बढ़ाए जा, पल पल प्रेम बढ़ाए जा, ओरे मोरे मन श्री राधिका रमन, निश दिन गुन गन गाए जा, निश दिन गुन गन गाए जा. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, Kripa. Loved it. In fact, this was the bhajan through which I made my debut in bhajans. It was a very simple to understand and very melodious. And one of my favorite lines in this bhajan is वह जीवन क्या जीवन जिसमें जीवन धन से प्यार न हो, श्यामा श्याम मिलन हित नित प्रति नैनन नीर बहाए जा, ओरे मोरे मन श्री राधिका रमन, निशी दिन गुन गन गाए जा. Very nice, Kripa. Loved it. Okay, Payalji is there as well. So Sandhya and then Payalji. Let's wrap it up with two more entries then. Kripa, the joy which is so palpable on your face with these bhajans is very, very infectious. So I'm so glad you are truly tuned into it and you're thoroughly enjoying. So welcome to Krishna Bhakti. Good.
Sandhya ji, yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, Sandhya. Sandhya has got a surprise for us today.
Okay, I'll just share the screen. Wait a minute.
Sure.
So this is a bhajan that I saw and it relates with what we are discussing. So I just thought that I'll try to sing this. Okay. Piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye, piya mool amolak lijiye. अस अवसर फिर नाही मिलेगो, अस अवसर फिर नाही मिलेगो, बातन मोर पति जी, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. बनन चाहत जो अमर सुहागी, बनन चाहत जो अमर सुहागिनी, तन मन प्राणन दीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए. दई सर बस ले प्रेम सुधारस, दई सर बस ले प्रेम सुधारस,
तेहि रस महानित भीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए। पुनीत ही रस हिम पिवई और पुनीत ही रस हिम पिवई और आपहु सोई रस पीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए। जन्म कृपालु सफल कर लीजिए, जन्म कृपालु सफल कर लीजिए। क्यों कर निज कर मीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए, पिय मोल अमोलक लीजिए। That's
Very nice, Sandhya. Where did you get all these pictures? Did you create this along with the pictures? Very
yeah,
nice.
I just
I'm
tried
sure
it.
a lot of Roop Dhyan you did while preparing for this bhajan. It's such a beautiful bhajan, right? Priceless is what we've been talking about, and very, very nice. And it's a very nice way of, innovative way of letting us do Roop Dhyan along with your singing. I think we should create more of it. Loved it. Thank you
And
so much.
one line in this bhajan which says that when you start experiencing this bliss, you want to share it with others. You want others to feel it. I just loved that line. It was beautiful.
Very
And
true.
everything, each and every line just is amazing. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity,
Yeah.
Radhe.
It's very infectious, right? It's like, okay, I'm experiencing something. How can you not experience it, right? You feel like that with your near and dear ones, especially. Beautiful. Loved it. We should do more of it now. The way you are creating it, it's a very innovative, creative way of presenting it and beautiful rendition. Loved it. Thank you, Satya. Let's move on to our Payalji then. Long time, Payalji. Welcome back.
Radhe Radhe. Payalji, please go ahead.
Radhe. Since this timing has changed, Nitinji, I mean, my classes, it is clashing with my class timings actually. That's why I'm not been able to. So earlier it was very convenient and very nice. Like, although morning hours are generally like we are
But
always
don't tell
in a
me
hurry.
you're going to wait for 6 more months before you can be regular. Okay, figure out a way.
No,
Tell
not at all, not at all.
Tell
I'm
your-
always there. Sorry.
Tell your students to come in a little early or a little late.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so
Sure.
I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. मोहन तेरे चरणों की जो धूल ही मिल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की जो धूल ही मिल जाए, सच कहती हूँ मेरी तकदीर बदल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की सुनती हूँ कृपा तेरी, दिन रात बरसती है, सुनती हूँ कृपा तेरी, दिन रात बरसती है, एक बूंद जो मिल जाए, मन की कली खिल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की जो धूल ही मिल जाए, सच कहती हूँ मेरी तकदीर बदल जाए, मोहन तेरे चरणों की। राधे राधे।
Very nice, Payalji. Radhe Radhe. Beautiful. Beautiful bhajan. One of the initial bhajans, when I got introduced to that, loved it. Two of those we did today, Ore More Man and this one. Thank you very much. It has that another line, right? Ye man bada chanchal hai.
Ye man bada chanchal hai. Yes.
Aise tera na man karu. Jitna ise samjhaun utna hi man. So man is what we are going to talk about tomorrow. Man. See, we give everything. We are willing to give our time, tan, dhan. Man is something we reserve for ourselves, so that we can attach it to things that are topic of our interest. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, because these concepts, they just converge beyond a point. Faith, surrender, grace, man, all that stuff we'll try to put all these pieces of puzzles together tomorrow. So great. Again, thank you again for beautiful renditions, Payalji, Sandhya, Kripa, and Urvi. And for everybody, for your enthusiastic participation. We'll continue on this journey tomorrow as we get deeper into the concepts of surrender, and also some of the concept that why God has put in a condition. If he's Akaran Karun, what's the big deal? Just bestow his grace and make us malamal, right? This job will be done. But at least we'll miss out on our Gita sessions if that happens. So we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay. So have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitinji, for another awesome session. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Stay blessed. See you all tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Radhe.